Hi everyone, welcome back. So this particular video is going to be talking about the next steps after you've uploaded the initial agent into the management server. Now this does not include ready to deploy because there are some additional steps you want to do prior to the deployment, such as define all of your policies that you want to apply to the endpoints. Otherwise, they would become default policies that ship with the box, and that could end up being a very bad thing. So first and foremost is we need to know about your computers in your environment. So what we have is we have what's called an organizational scanner. And this organizational scanner will scan your AD environment to pull in your AD infrastructure so we can start applying policies according to your AD structure. A very simple process, providing the name, username, and domain of the account that can read in AD, the password, and normally the root domain of the system. If the machine that you're running this from, the management server, the endpoint console, is on your domain, a lot of this will get auto-populated for you. In the initial stages, you can also change the port if you're using secure connections to your Active Directory, and you can change the scan interval time. In the initial one, I would probably say 5 if you're doing some testing. If you're going into production, depending on the number of objects, you definitely want to increase this at least to 60 minutes, if not longer, depending on how often your Active Directory changes and adding and potentially removing objects or changing object statuses in the environment. So we leave that to you to determine, but in the initial stages, if it's testing lab, 5 minutes is great. Okay? Once that's done, we go back to our deployment rules, and you can, again, use our wizarding functionality, but the recommendation I would typically do, and I found most effective, is to download the initial client, okay? And this basically allows you to go ahead and just throw this out there using some sort of deployment solution like SCCM, Alteryx, Landes, Case, Kbox, whatever it might be that you use. It's an MSI package. You can even deploy it out through group policy if you want to. You can define virtual groups, and we'll talk about those in another section. Or you can simply say, I'm ready to download, and basically save the file where you would like. In this particular instance, I'm just going to create a new folder, call it EPS, and select the downloaded folder, and it'll begin the process of downloading the initial package. Okay. And then I will open the file in the initial location. You can see it's a standard EPS package, standard MSI package. Do not change the name of this package. What I would do is I would recommend you just name the folder, such as marketing install, executive install, whatever it might be, but keep the name as is. It will be problematic if you change the name. Okay? This, again, does not include any of the blade structures or any of the blades that you want to push out. This simply includes just the heartbeat to let the management know that, hey, I'm alive and I'm here. Or if you want to, you can go, the second option is go through our wizarding process and select the directories. Now, once you have the AD scanner set up, they will all be listed here. Or you can do entire organization, and it'll give you kind of a warning that it's already been selected. Or you can select virtual groups or external users, whatever it is that you've got set up already, you can go ahead and leverage that. Okay? And then from here, you have the initial agent, and then you can select which blades that you want to push out. Again, obviously, this will be based on what you're licensed for. If you're interested in just, let's say, our Sandblast solution, then you can come in here and uncheck everything except for the Sandblast functions. Then simply hit next, and it'll ask you to say, what do you want to deploy it on? And you can just give it a name, whatever you want. Let's say you're going to do this to marketing. You can say marketing, and then simply hit finish. And it creates the deployment for you. Now, if the marketing team had the initial agent onto there and you were to go ahead and install this policy, anyone in this particular target area would get the 3 blades listed here. So this would be the push portion of it. The only time you have to do the initial agent deployment is outside of our solution. After that, everything else is a push. Now that we know it's live, we can communicate with it. We can add and subtract blades appropriately. Okay? The third option is if you don't want to just use the initial agent, you want to actually push out the initial agent with the blade structures, you can create, as we did here, and then right-click on it and say, you know what, I want to download this full package. And you can download 32-bit and 64-bit, assign it to a potential virtual group, and then simply click on download. And then the same process goes, where does it belong? And then again, name the folder appropriately, EPS1. And then select that folder, and it'll begin the process of downloading. You can see this is taking a little bit longer because it's now including not only the 3 blades, but also the initial client. Once it's done, you will take a look at the file, and you'll notice that it's still called EPS, but it has now these additional blades. So from a documentation perspective, you definitely want to go ahead and make sure you've named them correctly, or put something in there like a text file that says this installer contains XYZ. Now, and you can see here now the initial client has been deployed out or saved. So we can click on EPS1, and you can see it's also called EPS, but it's a larger footprint. And here's our original EPS with just the initial agent. And you can see that there's a dramatic difference in size in regards to the files, but again, all named the same thing. And now these can be used to be pushed out via group policy or SCCM or whatever it is that you're using to potentially push out packages in your environment. Or as I mentioned earlier, simply install the agent and then select your target groups, install the policy, and then we would begin the push process of installing the selected blades because the agent will have already been there. So that's kind of the 3 areas of choices you have to get the packages ready to potentially deploy. We'll talk about some of the things you want to consider before you actually start deploying these out from a blade perspective. An agent you can push out anytime you want. It has no bearing because it's not going to be doing any of the blade functions until you actually push them out. Okay, thanks a lot, guys, and hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you later.